Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos. It is a pleasure to be your host today for this virtual event celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm Isadora Badi, Vice President of Marketing for FirstService Residential, and we have a wonderful program for you today. And to kick things off, I would like to invite someone who is very important to all of us. She is not only the top executive in our entire company, the top female executive in our entire company, but also the top Latina in our company. Everybody say hello to our Chief People Officer, Lupe Mika.
Thank you, Isadora. What a beautiful introduction. And hello, everyone, and welcome. It's a pleasure for me to be here. As Isadora said, you know, my name is Lupe Mika. I'm the Chief People Officer. Again, welcome to Hispanic Heritage Month. This is something that the People Council, the Pillars, was put together by the People Council several years ago. And as you know, we have several pillars that we celebrate, which today's event is sponsored by the Women in Leaderships Network. So I wanted to make sure and recognize them and thank them for that. I recently, I think yesterday, came out an email from me that had a short video. If you didn't get to watch it, please watch it. It talks about your own career. And in this email, I was inviting associates to take charge of their careers and how important it is for you to invest in your own career. So I am thrilled to know that many of you are here today taking time out of your busy day, because I know how busy all of you are, to learn and invest in yourself. And as always, we continue to understand our commitment to diversity. And because of that, we are happy to be featuring Dr. Juana Bordas. It's my pleasure to have her here. She's described as a leader, a teacher, an activist, and an author. I've seen some of her videos. I've spent some time listening to them. When I listen to them, I love her optimism, her vision in life, and how she finds leadership lessons. This was my favorite part, is how she found leadership lessons in just everyday events, which is something I think that all of us can learn from. With that, I'd like to welcome her, and I will be turning this back over to Isadora.
Thank you so much, Lupe. What a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Lupe. Thank you, Juana, for being with us today. You have an extensive resume, so many accomplishments, and we are just so happy to have you here. And we have a great conversation ahead of us. And of course, we love seeing everybody's reaction on the chat. A few of you are saying, "Hola, Lupe." So I love the way we kick things off. So Juana, the first question for you is, why do you believe it's important to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month?
Well, it's important to celebrate all of the months, right? And all of the people, and to give a little special time for each group. But for Latinos, it's so important because we were only declared a minority in 1977. So, you know, we did not have a collective identity before that, and that wasn't even 50 years ago. So Latinos are really still in the identity formation stage. We're trying to figure out, you know, what is this dynamic culture that we come from? And it's a little bit, you know, we come from 26 different countries. We were able to see on the chat, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Mexico, and of course, the United States. In fact, the United States has more people of Hispanic descent than anywhere except Mexico and Brazil. So we're a very large force. I was looking at our statistics, and we've just grown to 68 million, making 20% of America's population. And then the other thing is our diversity internally, you know, where we were a mixture between the Spanish and the Europeans. So 42% of Latinos claim European or Spanish descent. You know, a fourth of us are still indigenous and connect to that indigenous part of us. but a fourth of us are also Afro-Latino. You think about the Caribbean and Brazil and Colombia and Dominican Republic. We have that Afro-Latino beat, I want to call it. And we're also mixed. About 33% of us are now looking that we're multicultural, we're mixed. And like, for example, I have French blood. My father was French Nicaraguan. So this gives this dynamic group an opportunity to come together, to celebrate our past, to celebrate our contributions that we're making today and will make in the future, to share our culture with all of the people that are Latino by corazón, is what I call you. You're Latinos by heart. And then to invite people to join with us in creating this inclusive humanistic society that comes out of our values. So Hispanic Heritage Month is really important in order to do that, to bring ourselves together, but then to share the beauty of our culture with everyone else.
I love that, Lupe. And you mentioned, right, we're creating the Latino identity. And with 26 countries, there's a lot there. There's a lot of diversity. In your view, what values tie us together as Latinos? What are
that's such a great question, because Latinos are a culture, not a race. We saw that we come from all the different races, and so what really holds us together is this culture that comes out of our values. And one of the things I wanted to say about Latinos is that, and this is true for women and people of color, we've had to learn to maneuver in the dominant culture, in the male-centered cultures. And so this coming together is so important so that we can understand who we are and what our contributions are, and also to become bicultural, being able to be ourselves, to have that sense of authenticity, but also be able to contribute and be part of the dominant culture and the organizational systems. So first of all, Latinos are we people. We're we's, not I's. And so people come first in our culture. Even in the language, dámelo, the me before the lo, the me before the thing. It's always the people first. And so we're very family oriented, and we focus on community. And because we're we cultures, where the we is more important than the I, we are really good at collaboration, at helping each other. We make great team players because we have been grown and we live in a collective culture. And that's so important today because we live in a society where that sense of collectivity, that sense of belonging is something people really want. The other thing Latinos have is mi casa su casa, generosity and sharing. So you can't have a we culture and just think about numero uno, right? Yeah. So the culture is very generous and sharing. If you go to a Latino's house, they have to feed you, they have to share. There's a saying, donde come uno, come dos, where one needs to eat, which means we want to share. And that's really what mi casa es su casa means. It means what I have is yours, right? So but we have a much more fluid sense of who we are. But it's also mutual. I say to Latinos, mi casa su casa, don't let them get the deed to your house. It's not like that. It's like I share and you share. So it's a mutuality where we're all sharing and being generous. Now, we cultures are kept together by some things that are real important to FirstServe. First of all, respeto, respect. You can't have we culture without respect for every single individual and each person's contribution, whether it's in the family or the community, the organization. Every person has something to give. And then ser honeste, be honest. There's a saying in Spanish, mi palabra es la ley, my word is law. So when you have this collective culture, it's going to fall apart if people don't keep their word. So there's a sense of honesty. And by the way, honesty leads to integrity, which is the number one thing people want in their leaders. So these are leadership traits: to respect every person you work with, to be honest and follow through always, to keep your word. And then I love your name, Service First, because service is one of our big values. When you meet a Mexicano, they say, ¿Cómo puede servirte? How can I serve you? And so when you have collective cultures like that, it's that sense of service, of taking care of each other. And the way I define leadership and the purpose of leadership is to create a society that takes care of its people. Same thing with FirstService, to create an organization that takes care of its people. So this sense of collectivity, of we, is such an important value. And out of that falls all the respect for people. But I want to say one other thing that's really important to Latinos, and that's gozar la vida, fiesta, to have a good time. So Latinos, we work hard. That's our number one value as far as our contribution. We have the highest participation of any group in the labor market, but we also over-index in food, going out to eat, entertainment, digital, so we can keep track of people, entertainment. So we work hard, but we play hard. And we want to bring that sense of celebration to FirstServe. We want to celebrate every milestone. We want to celebrate people when they make a contribution, because it's in that celebration that we build that collective sense of working together. So Latino values are just so pivotal in what we do as a community.
I love that. And I think what you shared, collaboration, taking care of each other, serving our communities, integrity. So these are such important leadership traits, right? And everybody is here today getting some inspiration, information on becoming better leaders. And these are values very well suited for these times.
Yeah, and for your company, because you're a people company, you're a service company. So these are values that are really integral to you being the best company that provides these kind of services across the country. And so they're really important. I also wanted to say that with Latinos, they have a sense of responsibility for others, but also that our leadership is like that our leadership is really about creating organizations, communities that really, where people come first and where we serve each other and where every person's potential is realized in a sense.
Yes, in Juana, I'm listening to you and thinking about leadership traits, and something that Latinos have is a lot of diversity in generations. And I wanted to ask you about leading across generations, right? What we call intergenerational leadership.
Yeah.
And if you can give some notes on that to everybody listening to us today.
Okay, well, the reason intergenerational leadership is so important. Now, we've already talked about being global. You all are from all over. It's a global company. And so in this century, we're going to see more and more globalization coming together as a global community. We're also going to see us becoming multicultural, because right now they're projecting that by 2030, we're going to have a majority of people identifying as multicultural, as more than one race. But the next wave is intergenerational change, because today, 10,000 baby boomers retire every day. I was doing a presentation for 20 people where we were looking, 200 people where we were looking at generations. And there was only another boomer in the room besides me. 10,000 boomers retire every day. Some of the people that you're going to be serving in your company. And yet millennials and Zs are the largest generation in history. In 7 years, they're going to make up the majority of the electorate. So they're an important group. And what we have in our companies now is 4 generations working side by side. So intergenerational leadership, which is important to Latinos, because for Latinos, the way we have gotten here over 500 years of being colonized and marginalized and called minorities, is that our leadership is like a relay race where I am passing the torch to the next generation, and the next generation passes it to the next generation, and the next generation passes it to the next generation. That's how we've survived and thrived. So this whole idea of intergenerational leadership is bringing the generations together, but then really understanding the differences. That today we're looking at digital natives, right?
Yes.
People, my millennial daughter was on a computer when she was 3 years old. It's part of the way she looks at the world, and the way she thinks is like this as compared to me. She's a multidimensional thinker because of her age. And their generation is really concerned with social change and making sure that they're going to have an environment that's going to support them, that they're going to be able to buy a home in the future. So they have, that they can pay off college debts if they go to college. So a lot of young people are really interested in how do we create a society for the future? And that's our job, by the way, as leaders, is to make sure that the company continues, that our country continues, that young people continue to have a good life. So when you have intergenerational leadership, you have to learn about the different generations and what it is that really inspires them. Now, I'm going to give you an example from my life. My younger students call me Tia Juana.
Yes.
Aunt Juana. And I'll tell you why. First of all, everybody had a favorite auntie or an aunt. And in many, many cultures, your mother's best friend was your auntie. The lady next door was your auntie. You have this idea that you don't have to be a blood relative to be an auntie. But young people do not like hierarchy. They don't like top down. They want to be seen as collaborators, as partners. And it's true. I learned so much from them. And they also inspire me. People say, well, why are you inspired? Because I work with young people and they have a vision for a beautiful future that they want to collectively work towards. So Tia Juana breaks the hierarchy. It makes me approachable. It makes me, and we have a lot to share. Don't get me wrong. Elders have things to share, especially in some cultures. We're very valued. But on the other hand, it's not me talking to them. It's us collaborating together about a future that me as a leader, the greatest gift I can give is legacy. The greatest gift I can leave is to leave something for the people that come after me. And so young people really inspire me to do that. So I think intergenerational leadership is so important today. The lifespan doubled in the last century, so we now have this incredibly intergenerational labor force.
I love your hand gestures, Juan. And I think they say a lot because you're talking about bringing people together, right? And bridging gaps and communicating across groups. And thinking about Latinos as such a diverse group.
Yeah.
It's.
I want to say one more thing, Isadora, about young people, and that is that they're into intersectionality.
Yes.
And having very mixed identities and including a binary approach to gender. And I think they're offering us, we've had this thing about diversity, and sometimes it's been black and white, and women have been struggling to kind of build partnerships across. And young people are saying we can be a lot of these different things. I can be a woman and a Nicaraguan and an immigrant. I can be a cisgender person. I mean, you can be many, many things, right? Including a salsa dancer.
Yes.
And they identify that way. And so that gives us all a bigger bandwidth to take a breath and be more, because we have that potential.
Yes, and we can really bridge communication across groups and act almost as translators, right? Not in terms of language, but in terms of bringing all these groups together and listen to everyone, which is super
and
powerful.
learn from each other.
Yes.
I mean, we're here to share. I always say, if the Great Spirit wanted everybody to be alike, we'd be alike. But instead, every single individual is a one-of-a-kind design. They're unique. And your job as a leader is to find out who that person is. How do they identify? What do they want to be called? What are their goals? What are their assets? And what do they have to give? What are their skills and talents? And as we do that, as we have those values of respect and honesty and caring for people, then we create a company where people are on fire.
I love that. And you can see on the chat, people are saying, I love that. People are using the word love. And it's so wonderful to get this feedback in real time from our conversation. And again, as Lupe mentioned, this event is offered to us by our Women's Leadership Network. So Juana, you already mentioned challenges women face still today. So I wanted to ask you to share with us a word of advice to women looking to grow in their careers. What can you share with us today?
Yeah. Well, I did want to say that, when you talk about a Latina, that's our identity as both a Latina and a woman, which is really
Yes.
important, because in my early work, I ran women's centers and women's leadership programs. And that whole idea of the Latina being both her culture means that when you look at a Latino woman, or Latina feminism, if you want to call it that, the advancement of women, it meant the advancement of our community, not just the individual woman. And I think that's so important, because women, since we are the majority and we have the opportunity, and we got the vote 102 years ago. This is how long it takes to create paradigm shifts. And women are just beginning now to be at the higher levels of leadership, right? But what they're saying is that women are better at giving emotional support to employees. I saw this statistic that 38% of people want to work for a woman, and only 26% to a man, because they feel like women are more relational, that women inspire people more and bring a sense of even work-life balance, and that they have a greater commitment to diversity and inclusion. Well, of course, because women have been moving forward. But the thing about women is, I think that, and by the way, the Latino culture is a matriarchal culture. I like to say my father wore the pants in the family, but my mother said, "Papi, ponte este." That's what she would pick out his pants. So you know what I'm talking about. So here we are. We have a matriarchal culture where women are so central. And what they're saying about, and I want to say this is for both women and Latinos, is that we're ultimate team players. That if we have women and Latinos, and the more diverse a group is, according to the study with 900 teams at Stanford, the more effective they're going to be, because you're bringing in different perspectives, different experiences, and together, collaboratively, we can get a better solution. And we were going to talk a little bit about leadership. And what I wanted to say was that today, leadership has to be collaborative, because
Yes.
the issues we face, how do you grow your market? How do you serve your people better? How do you find out what people really want in their communities? How do you prepare your board members to be effective? How do you prepare people to listen to one another when they're in community? All of these critical problems we have to solve are ambiguous problems that don't have a right and wrong answer. So you bring a team together, and they're going to come up with a better solution. They're going to come up with more ideas because of the fact that they have this amount of diversity. The other thing they're saying about women is that women, because they're so people-oriented, that not only do people want to work with them more, but they have a leadership style that's less top-down, like we were talking about hierarchy and dominance. We weren't raised in those kinds of cultures as women. We were raised to be more people-centered, community-centered. Women used to always identify through their relationships, as mother, as daughter, as teacher, as, we really identify by how we interact with people. So those things are really important in women's leadership. I have a few tips for what women can do to be more effective.
Oh, we want some of those tips for sure.
Yeah, so when I was running Mikasa Women's Center, every woman had to take an assertiveness training course. And I don't know if younger women still have that sense of how do you communicate in an assertive, not an aggressive, but an assertive style that really tells you this is what I really believe, I think, and that you revisit it and you come back and you find your voice. The second one is I think we need to learn the rules of power, because we have not been in those positions. I mean, here we have Lupe that's, at the top of the organization, and how do we bring more people up there? And I heard her commitment to doing that, because as we do that, we change the dynamics. But we have to learn the rules of power. I remember one time I was serving on the Colorado Association of Commerce and Industry, which is the state chamber of commerce. And I had to work with all men, one other woman, all white men, and one African American. And I had to learn the rules of power, one of which is you win some, you lose some. Women tend to get all like, oh, we lost that, or we didn't get what we want, or we disappointed our people, but not that sense of emotion, that sense of, okay, we learned something from that. We're going to come back and visit it. Maybe we'll have plan B. Maybe we'll do a contingency planning, but we're going to continue. And so in the rules of power, if you don't win something, it doesn't mean you lost. In fact, another skill that I want women and Latinos to know is negotiation skills. So I have a slogan. When they say no, I say game's on.
I like that. Tell me more, Juana. Share
No
more
does
of
not
that.
mean no. You guys have to remember that. Game's on. And second of all, that that never take the first offer. I mean, because trust me, a white male executive is not going to take the first offer. Then have a goal and a plan for yourself. All the studies on women say they don't reach high enough. And so we have to reach high. But the most important thing, I think, is to build your network, because what they say is that 40% of your success comes from who you know. And if there's 5 or 6 people going for a job and they're all qualified, it's going to be the person that people know. They know your reputation. You've made it a point to become visible in the company, which is real important. You participate in sessions like this. You're part of the women's leadership team. People know your contributions and who you are. And so that sense of making yourself visible in the company so that you can be promoted is really important. And of course, we know mentors and sponsors and leadership opportunities and things like that.
I love that. And it's so great because in our company, every day we have first call, right? Which is a huddle call across the organization. And we all take turns hosting the call. And that is a great way to see new people in action and also to practice communicating with a group and really exercising those communication presentation skills as a leader. So this idea of building your network, making yourself known makes a lot of sense. Okay, I have a question for you, and I'm looking at the chat here because I think people are going to chime in too. How can Latinos continue to grow as leaders in their work and also in their communities? I know this is a big one, so we're going to take time with this one step by step because I think people are going to be inspired. And if you're here on the chat, please do chime in how you act as a leader at work in your communities. Let's all share.
Okay, so first I want to welcome people that weren't born into the Latino culture as Latinos by corazón or by heart. Because we're such an inclusive culture, one of our main values is bienvenido or welcome, right? And so we have a very extended family, and within all our families are people that were born Latino and people that are Latino by relationship. They're madrinas, they're madrinos, they're compadres, they're comadres, they're primos, they're carnals, they call them in California. And so we welcome people to participate in our culture. And because we are a culture and not a race, and culture is learned, you can learn to be Latino.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My company was the only consulting company in America that had a salsa dancer on our staff, and our guarantee was in 1 hour you'll be salsa dancing.
You see, and we do potlucks for Hispanic Heritage Month. So here on the line, everyone participate in the potluck. There you go.
For sure, because we have all that wonderful food. So one thing about Latinos is that, like I said, we're in the identity formation stage. And so we still need to ask the question, who are we? Where did we come from? How can we create unity out of diversity? Because diversity is our strength, but unity is our power, right? We have to become unified. And so we really need to reach out. And I like to say that I'm Nicaraguan by birth, and I'm Chilean by corazón because I've served in the Peace Corps in Chile, and I'm Mexican by culture because I've lived with Mexicanos all my life, and I'm Puerto Riqueña because I spent time when I was training for the Peace Corps in the Yunque. For the Puerto Ricans that are here, they know that's the jungle. And I've been to Colombia and been to the lost city, la Ciudad Perdida. I've climbed to Machu Picchu in Peru. My great-grandmother was Peru. We need to make these connections. you know, and I was looking at Latinos in travel. There's a new study that says Latinos do want to travel to other countries and learn more about their culture and learn more. And that's what we need to do right now. And then to bring that home and say to people, we're a global community, an international community, and we want to be leaders in creating this multicultural global world that's coming. And also to be leaders with our young people, since we're the youngest people in America. So cultural pride is real important, but also the idea of us being bicultural. And you'll look and see that 60% of Latinos now consider themselves bicultural and not bicultural. And not only that, but we're the fastest growing group in universities. So Latinos finally, when I started the University of Florida in the 60s, there were no other Latinos. I marched to integrate my university in my senior year. And today, we're not only the fastest growing group, but over 25% of us have college degrees. So we have the intellectual power to contribute at a higher level. You can become the head of diversity. You can become the highest Latina in the FirstService, and you can help other women and other Latinos move forward. So I think that's really important for us to continue understanding that we are bicultural, that we do travel, we assimilate, we acculturate, we go back and forth, and we can bring that ability. In the multicultural global world, the skill you need is cultural adaptability. Cultural
adaptability.
And agility. So that when I'm talking to you, I'm connecting. When I'm talking to a young person, I'm connecting. That sense of agility that you can kind of surf between different people. And Latinos have that, because I had to walk into a school at 6 years old, couldn't speak English. And so I've learned both cultures, and I'm proud. When Latinos talk about it, I'm Nicaraguan American, Colombian American, Mexican American. We're both. We bring both of those perspectives. So I think that's real important. The other thing I think is Latinos, we need to talk more about who we are. We need to share more about our assets. Latinos, because we're a people culture, we have this thing about being simpático and congenial. It's one of our top traits, because in a we culture, you want to be liked. On the other hand, if we aren't assertive, if we don't talk about who we are, if we work hard but not smart by not promoting ourselves and letting people know what our contributions are, then we're going to be passed over. Then when I trained Latinos for leadership, I said, somebody's going to take that leadership position. Why shouldn't it be you with your values and your contribution and your experience and what you want to contribute? So we need to do that, to take that next step. Now, white leaders don't have to deal with identity. So sometimes it's hard for them to understand why people of color and even women have to be real clear on who they are, because our identity was not the major identity that formed our country, that formed institutions, that formed leadership. Leadership was basically structured by a white male system. So we really need to learn a lot about who we are, how we contribute, and how we can verbalize that, speak that out. And that's where we come back to assertiveness training, being able to stand up, even the way you walk in a room, because we said 40% of your success is through your network, but there's a whole big chunk that comes from your image and what people think about you, how you carry yourself, and the pride that you have in being yourself.
I love that. And I think the chat here, everybody is talking a little bit cultural adaptability and agility. How often we're in a meeting and, sometimes we catch ourselves saying, oh, but we used to do it this way. We've always done it this way, right? Why what we want is this sense of innovation, of looking for what's new, learning the new technology, right? And connecting with the different generations to stay always learning, right? So,
and you brought up such a real important point, Isadora, and that is that Latinos, according to the last census, we started 80% of small businesses. And so we have an entrepreneurial spirit, and it doesn't matter if you're at FirstService, you can still bring that entrepreneurial can do, how do we change things? The other thing about our leadership is that it's a si se puede leadership. Yes, we can is si se puede, because we have been marginalized groups. And like what we've said, the way we've succeeded is through our collective advancement, through our organizations, through registering to vote, through getting people into positions of influence. And so we have this si se puede. Now, these are two great traits to bring to Service First: innovation, creativity, problem solving, and change, because Latino leadership is about social change. It's about equalizing the playing field so that everybody can be respected and can move forward by who they are. And then the second piece of that, so you have that. And then the second piece of that is now I've lost it, entrepreneurial and si se puede.
Yes, I love that.
I get all carried away with myself. But the
attitude.
si se puede is important too, because how do you create an organization that's focused towards the future? Yes, we can, and that whole thing. And so Latinos are futuristic in our thinking because that's how we got here. And for those of you that weren't born in this country, I love this when I go like, tiene que tener mucha pena por the Latinos in the US, because we were colonized twice, once by the Spanish and once by the Anglos. And a lot of people that come in from South America don't understand that. You're a US Latino now.
Yes.
And we love you, and we're so happy, because when people come from the other countries, they revitalize our culture. They know the language, they know the costumbres, they got the recipes, they have the values. And so they come from Central and South America to work for FirstService or to join their family members here, and they revitalize who we are as a people. But they also are now seen as US Latinos. And so now they have a third thing to do. They have to do the Latino thing, the US Latino thing, and the how do we fit into the white cultural system. Luckily for us, we can do this. We've been adapting since we were very young to different cultural systems.
Absolutely. Well, my personal journey has been of going to places which is not where I grew up, and recreating myself and finding people that I connect with, in terms of values. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Juana, the next question I'm going to ask people on the chat to answer first, and I want you to answer after. So everybody on the chat, I want you to think about it and answer. Is being Latino a superpower these days? So I want to see what people say on the chat. We'll give it a minute, and then I want Juana to answer. Let's see. Pam Walker. Yes, absolutely. It is. Yes. See, absolutely. Okay, I can see here the answers. Melissa Garcia, super Latino, yes. No doubt. Claro. I like that. Oh, Stancy Stanley said, it depends on where you live.
Oh, that is a really
That's a good
answer.
one.
Yes.
Lucy Acevedo,
Yes.
seguro que sí. So we have a lot of great answers. Marco Malfavon, absolutely. Being bilingual, multicultural, having a rich ancestry is a superpower.
Oh, love it.
David Hyde, I'm a gringo, but I find it so valuable reaching into my aplatonado roots, many times the job and outside the job. Juana, what do you say? Is being Latino a superpower?
Yeah, well, here's what I want to say first, and that is because we were talking about Latino by corazón, and I want to honor David's contribution there. It's very different to be Latino in the sense of when you talk about diversity inclusion, because we really do have that bienvenido inclusive spirit. And I have Germans in my family. I have Irish in my family. I also have a Filipino that my nephew just married, my niece just married, a Spaniard, so we represent Norwegian. We have a Norwegian. This is like amazing, right?
It's a melting pot.
Yeah, when you see our family, you see this cross section, and I think that's one of our superpowers, because we are going to transform America. We are going to say inclusion and diversity is everybody, and we're here to share our culture because we believe it does enrich you. We believe that it does make your family stronger. It makes your family more extended. It helps you build a community of people around you. It puts people first, right? And I have to say something really quick.
Yes, please do.
Okay. This is for people to put down for your work because it's about people. I serve on the Colorado Health Foundation. It's the largest foundation in Colorado. And the number one factor for people to have good health is housing. I don't know if you all tote that or not, but I
Yes.
want to throw that in. Housing is so important, and so is health. But again, those are things that everybody should have: good health, good housing, right? And so Latinos have sort of a equalizing, mutuality and equalizing. Nobody's better than the other. So in my leadership principles, I have the principle of the leader as equal. That's a superpower, to understand that everybody has something to contribute and everybody is going to make the organization better. Then we have leadership by the many, where everybody, if you have the leader as equal, then you have leadership by the many, where you create an organization where people take responsibility and ownership as if it was their small business, right? So those are two of the superpowers, but I think the main superpower for Latinos is our love of life.
Yes.
It's our love of life. You know, from being multicultural people, we have this fusion, and fusion always creates energy, right? Whether you're talking about biodiversity, or whether you're talking about putting a plant together and having a hybrid, it always creates energy. So Latinos have this love of life, and I think people are longing for that. They're longing for a sense of belonging. They're longing for people to recognize who they are. They're longing for people to hear their narratives, and we're an oral tradition culture. We love to talk and we love to share our stories. They're longing for a culture where people take care of each other and they're generous and they share, and it's not about materialism, but more about the quality of your life. And I think so, as you look at Latinos and their superpower, first of all, it's our growth. I mean, you know, we are going to be
Yes.
the majority, 78% of the new entries into the labor force. It's our work ethic. Latinos love to work. That's how we contribute to the family, to others. That's how we find our power. Latinos are international, as we said. That's our superpower. This is the global world, and look at us. We come from all over, including Europe and including the Philippines, including there's two places in Africa that speak Spanish that I didn't even know about. You know, so we have this global thing, and we have that whole sense of that people can be more than. We can be multicultural. I'm Indian, I'm French, I'm Spanish, I'm Nicaraguan, I'm American, you know, I'm Chilean, I'm Mexican. So I think that whole sense of that new world that's coming, that Latinos are very much in sync. That's why I like to say, es la hora, el futuro es latino.
I love that. This gives me such hope, Juana. These are such wonderful qualities that we can all develop and express more and more at work and in our communities. Arnold Varona wrote here on the chat, I'm going to read, we have that inclusive spirit built in.
Yes, it's part of our DNA.
It gives us a tremendous advantage in working together and accepting others and moving forward. And Esmeralda Rubio, I truly appreciate the vibrant energy and authentic charm. Juana, you are incredibly inspiring. Juana, this is such a wonderful conversation. I'm going to now aim sky high with my question.
Oh, boy.
So I want to ask you, what is your wish for the future?
Well, I wanted to cap off a little bit on what I call the Latino Advantage. And that is from the stuff we've been talking about. I always teach that there's 5 ways Latinos are going to create organizations that really serve people. And the first one is the bienvenido spirit. The fact that we are diverse, and someone said it's in our DNA, right?
Yes.
That's how we roll. You know, my Uncle Carl is German. I love him.
Yes.
He has his cafecito in the morning, and he's good. Also, we will create people-centered organizations because of our we orientation, especially working with women and other people of color, collaboration and teamwork and working together and cooperation, and that sense of mutuality where we help each other. Then we're going to set the standard for the work ethic. You can't outwork a Latino. And it's not only our work, but we have something called passion, ganas. Hágalo con ganas, con orgullo. It's not just do your job, do it with some passion, with some energy, with some love, with some some understanding that you're contributing to the whole, you know. Then we talked about our entrepreneurial, our resourcefulness, our do more with less, our innovation. So we can bring that to Service First. And then finally, you know, the studies on Latinos say that we're the most optimistic people in America, that over half of us believe our life's going to get better. And I say, absolutely. I live in the nicest house, all of us. If you look at Latinos, our incomes are going up, you know, and so we have that sense of let's celebrate life. Let's be optimistic. Let's be hopeful about the future, especially because we have so many young people coming.
Yes,
So you asked me, what's my hope for the future?
yes.
No, first of all, you all are fortunate to work for a company that does housing and that builds community and that empowers people through your boards and through, you know, the training that you do to get people to participate. When you look at America, one of the things that's missing is that sense of community. Part of that is because we all move around and don't have those roots like we did in the last generations. So you're fortunate to be working for a company that's creating that sense of roots. And like I said, in my work in health, housing, having good housing is the #1 factor that creates healthy people. So I think that's really important, but I think the vision that Latinos have for the future, that's an inclusive, bienvenido future where everybody contributes, you know. We've worked for everything we have. Latinos don't believe in privilege, you know, we believe that we work together and that people get rewarded more or less equally. And that sense of young people, I really work really hard today. I'm on TikTok, by the way, so that I
That's
can
amazing.
Yeah, I have like 5,000 followers on TikTok, and
That's a lot.
I try to educate young people about the future and about being Latino and about inclusion and diversity. But that whole idea of how can we today reach out and bring the next generation and help solve some of the issues like climate change, so that our grandchildren and those that come after us can have a quality of life. And I think that's my vision for the future, that as we get more women and people of color and Latinos into leadership, that we can create a society that takes care of its people.
Thank you, Juana. You're painting a wonderful vision for all of us to bring back to our work and our daily lives as inspiration about the importance of our work, the opportunities that we can offer to others as well as leaders. I want to bring Lupe back because I know Lupe wants to say a few words about this conversation that has been so inspiring, and then we can close with Juana with a little bit of celebration. Lupe?
Thank you, Isadora. Thank you, Juana. You guys are naturals together, just so comfortable in speaking to each other. I was looking at the chat and watching the chat just to make sure there weren't some questions coming up. And I love this one thing that came up. It's from Arnold Verona. It says, we have that inclusive spirit built in to our culture, which gives us a tremendous advantage in working together and accepting others and moving forward, which I loved that he said that. Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful, yes.
I do want to say I get asked very often, Lupe, who can listen to or participate in these types of events? If it's sponsored by a Women in Leadership, is it only women? If it's sponsored for Hispanic Heritage Month, is it only Hispanics? And the answer is everyone can participate. And the answer is it's important that different people participate because we all have something to learn from, you know, listening to each other. And so I want to encourage our associates to not feel uncomfortable about participating in anything that you want to and to learn. And I think it was great the way you said it, you know, there's difference between a culture and a race, right? And we can explain that. The best thing you said in all of this, and you said a lot of wonderful things, was that I am going to take for it, right? I always try to take one thing and I circle it.
Yes.
Is the term cultural adaptability and how you can surf between different people. And I think about that as such an important thing for any leader, for anyone that wants to be successful, to be able to be adaptable and understand how to move within different types of people. and understand how to communicate even in the manner that they want to be communicated in, right? And
Yes.
so it's kind of like that EQ. I think that we all are
Yes.
born with a certain IQ, but EQ and cultural adaptability is something we can all learn. And things like today will give us, you know, that gift. So thank you so much for joining us. You are, I think, described here by a lot of the people. Your authentic energy is what they loved the most, and that's visible in your smile, in your energy, how you speak, but also how you dress. I love the pink glasses that match the pink vest, and I've seen you in the blue glasses that match the blue, and I think that's just such a look for you, and it just encapsulates who you really are and all the energy and passion you bring.
Mhm.
So thank you for today. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Isadora, for hosting this as well. And everyone
you,
else that did
Lupe.
work, because I know there's a lot of work behind the scenes that helps this get done as well.
Thank you, Lupe, so much. And the chat here is so wonderful. Jessie Di Giovanni saying, thank you. Never been more proud to be a Latina. Wepa! And Megan Mendoza said, FYI all, she's Tia Juana on TikTok.
Yes,
She
I'm
found
Tia
you.
Juana on TikTok. She found me. You know, I really want to say to folks that becoming multicultural, the majority of our children under 18, I think, are now identifying multicultural.
Yeah.
It's the next step in the evolution of the human consciousness. The next step of human consciousness is to become multicultural, to become open to different countries and races and nationalities and ethnic groups and, you know, even neighborhoods and geography, just to become open to the incredible expansiveness of the human spirit. And to recognize that our children, you know, they're saying by 2030 we'll be a multicultural nation. And so we, as people with good spirits who work for a company that really has people at its center, we can be the ambassadors for this new future that's coming, and we can model it in our company by accepting, respecting, and really embracing all the different people we work with.
Juana Bordas, thank you for being with us today. I know this meant a lot to me and to all of us present here in this conversation. And you can see we have more than 100 people with us right now. So as we close, should we say viva?
Yes. Que viva la cultura latina, que viva la gente, y que viva FirstService. Keep doing the wonderful work you're doing, and don't forget how important housing is to every single person on our planet, really. Que viva.
Thank you very much, Juana. Thank you all for joining us today. This was a wonderful moment for all of us. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for using event services. You may now disconnect.